Hello. Today I'm going to tell you an incredible story. The Phoenicians were credited as the inventors of the purple dye. This tale is a retelling of a Phoenician legend. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to hear more fascinating stories, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, but only if you're genuinely interested. Get ready for the story, and to those listening before bed, I already wish you sweet dreams. For 3 days the storm raged without cease. Giant waves thundered onto the sandy shore. Even as the storm waned, people dared not to venture from their homes. Only one man, known in the village simply as the miller, bravely stepped out onto the beach, standing firm against the wind. His attention was caught by a giant clad in a lion's skin walking just above the water. A huge dog the size of an ox followed him. The miller was frightened and hid in the bushes. Suddenly he saw a woman in a white chiton, beautiful as a goddess, approaching the giant. She bowed deeply and said clearly, "Greetings, Melqart." The miller realized he was seeing Melqart himself, the god, with his dog stolen from the underworld. "Greetings to you, Tyro." Melqart replied, resting his great hand on the nymph's shoulder. The nymph seemed to feel no weight. She turned to the god with glowing joy in her blue eyes. Lost in admiration, god and nymph saw nothing else. The miller felt hope for rescue. His only fear was the dog. Such animals have a keen sense of smell. But the wind blew seaward, so the underworld dog could not sense human breath. The dog followed his master, sniffing the shore. Suddenly, it tilted its head and grabbed something. There was a crunch, then a howl. Melqart and Tyro turned. The dog rolled on the ground. A bone had stuck in its throat. Trying to help, Melqart opened its mouth, and the miller saw blood red inside. "What a marvelous color!" the nymph exclaimed. "This is the color the sea takes when you dive into its waters." Melqart said nothing. He patted the dog's neck until it calmed, swallowing the stuck bone. "Melqart," the nymph continued in a capricious tone, "I want a chiton of that color." Melqart grumbled, a roar louder than a lion's, bent over and began gathering something from the shore. After a long while he said, "Take off your chiton." The miller closed his eyes. He knew any mortal who saw a nymph naked would turn to stone. There must be many such curious fools, he thought, recalling the human-shaped rocks he had seen in the mountains. When he dared open his eyes, Melqart, the nymph, and the dog had gone far. The nymph wore a chiton the color of sunset. There were no footprints in the sand, the gods leave none, but crab shells were crushed in several places. "So that's what the dog chewed," the miller guessed. He rushed to the shore and gathered crab shells cast by the waves. After collecting several large piles, he went home for flour sacks. People who had come out, by then the storm had calmed, laughed and pointed. "Look, our miller has gone mad. He's collecting inedible shells." The miller took the sacks of shells home, then began gathering his clothes. He brought everything to the mill. His wife screamed, "Why did you go to the shore before the storm ended? Evil spirits have bewitched you." "Father, give back our clothes," the daughters worried. "What will we wear?" "Go away," he shouted at his wife and daughters, closing the door. Those were his first words all day, but the women did not leave. They saw through the crack how he yoked the mules and mounted. The millstones screeched, but not as when grinding grain. It seemed they were grinding not grain or nuts. "He's grinding shells," the eldest daughter guessed. "Why is he doing that?" the middle daughter asked. "He wants to grind them into flour," the youngest ventured. The mother said nothing but wept. Within an hour the millstones stopped. Later the mules were unyoked and the miller appeared. His hands were blood red to the elbows. The daughters fled in fear and the wife shouted, "Why did you kill the mules, you madman? Who will turn the millstones now?" "I had no idea I was killing them," the miller replied with a smile. "I made dye and dyed your clothes with it. Come, I need your help." Within an hour, chitons of unseen colors hung drying on the clotheslines. Impossible to take eyes off them. Some were the color of the setting sun sinking into the sea, others the shade of violets. The whole village gathered to see the miller's work, realizing he was no madman but a clever man who learned to make dye from shells. "Sell me this," said the youngest daughter of the village elder, pointing to a violet chiton. "You don't have enough money," the miller said. "Each of these chitons costs as much gold as it weighs." "Sell them, fool," called his wife. "Who will give you such money?" "Kings," the miller replied with a smile. The kings of Egypt, Babylon, the Hittites, and the people who call themselves Hellenes. The dye whose secret Melqart himself revealed to me, is worthy only of kings.